It's time to get evil. But like a level 1 crook, you're a little broke boy. So now you put me in a pickle. I gotta make you a cool Sinister Six deck, but keep it on a budget. And after a little bit of scrolling on Moxfield and Scryfall, I think I've built our cheap Sinister Six deck that can still pack a punch. And there's no better way to start this deck tech than with the Commander. Prowler is a blue and a black human rogue villain with menace on a 2/3 body. Prowler has the ability of whenever another villain enters, it connives, meaning that we draw a card and then discard a card. If we discard a non-land card, Prowler gets a +1/+1 counter. Prowler is great in the command zone for us because he not only cares about us having a lot of villains, which is pretty important whenever we're building a Sinister Six deck, but also is a card draw engine that fills our graveyard, which, as you will come to see, synergizes really well with what the other villains we have in the deck do. And while Prowler can get pretty big with all of the counters that we get from conniving, it is mostly used as our main card draw engine. The key to the deck is the villains. This deck consists of every on-color villain that we can have from the set, outside of the ones I am projecting to be over $5 after the set's release, but we'll get into the pricing later. Looking at the villains that are commons, you can really start to see why I like Prowler in the command zone. Even a common like Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist, synergizes with this deck, caring about our graveyard, which we will be filling off of our connive, draw, and discard triggers with our Commander Prowler, but also gives our potential 8/8 body hexproof as long as we control another villain, which is really easy in this deck. And that's what I like about Prowler in the command zone, and in general villains from the Spider-Man set as a whole, just how synergistic they are with each other. We get cards like Beetle and Venom that we can exile from our graveyard to buff up another creature, making them good cards to discard off of our connive triggers, or just giving us generic value off of them dying during the game. And moving into the uncommon villains, we get cards like Tombstone that not only reduce the cost of our villains by 1, but also let us return a villain to our hand from the graveyard whenever he enters. Scorpion says that on our end step, if a creature died on our turn, we get to have a creature we control connive, once again adding to our connive triggers. Vulture being a really nice top end to this deck, saying that whenever it attacks, all other villains we control gain flying until the end of turn, just being a nice way to give our big board of villains a way to get through for some combat damage. Which brings me to the point again that we are not building Prowler as a Voltron deck. While it is nice making our commander a big body with all these +1/+1 counters, its main purpose in the deck is just to draw us cards and fill our graveyard. What our deck really wants to do is go wide with a bunch of villains, leading into our only rare villain from the set being Mysterio. Mysterio says that whenever it enters, we make a 3/3 illusion villain creature token for each villain we control. So if we play Mysterio and have a total of 4 villains on the board, we make 4 3/3 villain tokens. The great part being that since these tokens are villains, they all trigger Prowler for its connive trigger. And to finish off the creatures in this deck list, let's quickly go over the non-villains that really smooth out the deck. We do have a few changeling in this deck for the sole reason of there not being a lot of villains to truly make a big tribal deck on their own, so these few support changelings help round out the list while still getting our villain triggers. Grazilax is a fantastic card for us, making it so whenever one of our villains gets blocked, we can return it to our hand, which allows us to re-trigger Prowler's ability off of them re-entering later. And it also draws us cards whenever a creature we control deals combat damage. Massacre Worm is in a sense one of our board wipes in this deck, being a classic way to get a token deck's board cleared and deal some good ping damage whenever those creatures die. Our other creature board wipe effect is Archfiend of Ifnir, stating that whenever we cycle or discard a card, we get to put a -1/-1 counter on each creature our opponents control. And since this deck connives and discards so much, it can truly be a oppressive effect, making it so where our opponents can never truly have a consistent board state. Wonder is a great budget card in this deck since we can discard it off of our connive triggers, and as long as we control an island and it's in our graveyard, all of our creatures have flying, being a really good recursion vulture effect for us. Psychosis Crawler and Chasm Skulker are both cards that give us value for drawing so many cards. Sightcrawler pinging our opponents for damage, and Chasm Skulker getting huge with counters and then making little 1/1 island walk tokens for each counter it had on it whenever it dies. And now a good card I really like in this deck is Phyrexian Metamorph. Being able to copy something like Prowler for more card draw, or something like Mysterio for another use of its effect is insane value for us, and is a MVP in this deck if played right. And to move from our creatures to the rest of the deck, we have a standard budget card draw package with cards like Optum Preordain. Removal is nothing out of the ordinary either, throwing in Infernal Grafts and Hero's Downfall for some flavor, as well as some fun cards like Venom's Hunger and Scorpion Sting to play into our Sinister Six theme. For artifacts, we have the standard ramp package of Soul Ring, our Signets and Talisman, plus our trusty Felwar Stone. Artifacts also leading us into the most expensive card in the deck, being Herald's Horn at $5, which lets our villains cost 1 less to cast, and also lets us potentially get an extra card in our hand if we hit a villain on our upkeep. There are 4 enchantments in this deck, 2 being really good backgrounds that help Prowler get in for some combat damage if needed, and 2 being good auras to draw us some cards while adding to our villain theme. For our mana base, on Moxfield I'm only using basic swamps and islands, plus the Daily Bugle building. Since we're building a deck with a Spider-Man theme, we gotta throw it in there. And for our channel 2-color decks, I like just having basics, for this one throwing in a fun Flavorland, but of course you can upgrade the mana base as you choose so, but for our purposes only basics will be just fine. And now for this part of the video, I want to go back over what I disclaimed earlier, being the prices of some of the cards. After the insane highs of the Final Fantasy cards and how much they fluctuated even a little bit after release, I wanted to really toe down this deck price-wise while the prices of the cards fluctuate. This is the most affordable the deck will ever be, a little bit under a month before the release, but I'm sure that there are still some cards you can add to this deck list and keep it under $100, which is going to lead us into our upgrades. Like I said before, I left off the villains from the set I could see going for $5 or more whenever the set releases. The first one being Dr. Octopus Master Planner. This card buffs up our villains, makes our maximum hand size 8, and on our end step refills our hand back up to 8 cards. A very great top end to this budget deck that I just had to leave out because right now it's running for just under $10, and I didn't want to make 1/10 of this budget deck just 1 card. And then the same can be said for Venom Eddie Brock from the Welcome deck. The card is great with our villain theme, but since it is only printed in those Welcome decks that can be hard to find now, it's hovering for around $10 at the time of release. This is the same reason I also left off great cards that aren't creatures like the Clone Saga and Behold the Sinister Six from the set. Both cards are fantastic and will run great in this deck list, but both cards being of mythic or rare rarity and having cool effects, I could not confidently recommend them for a budget deck whenever I could see them going for over $5 after the set's release. And this leads me into the biggest kicker whenever it came to making this Sinister Six budget deck, and that's not having Norman Osborn Green Goblin in the command zone. Norman and Green Goblin are fantastic cards for the villain tribal theme, giving you access to another color in red, giving our cards mayhem, meaning that we can now cast them as we discard them from a trigger like connive, and also gives us a really good cost reduction to cards in our graveyard if we wanted to cast them. The main issue is that with the knowledge of sets like Final Fantasy, the top end cards from those sets are significantly high in price. A card similar to Green Goblin in hype was Sephiroth, which is currently at $50. And if Sephiroth is a sign of things to come, I could not confidently recommend a budget deck of $100 where half of the value is in the command zone. But I'm hoping that Green Goblin isn't that expensive in the normal art, so that you can build your Sinister Six deck with every color available if you want to and still be on a budget. If you are looking to upgrade this Prowler Sinister Six deck, while I do love seeing Prowler in the command zone, Green Goblin would be the natural next step to upgrading it. It lets you play with more villains like Carnage and Electro, and while it maybe isn't consistent card draw in the command zone, it gives you a plethora of other great things you can do. Other great non-budget upgrades would be tribal spells like Urza's Incubator, where we would choose villains, giving them a very good cost reduction. Reanimate and Entomb are great cards that let us put and play cards from our graveyard, and Reanimate having a badass bonus sheet art from the set just to add in some flavor. Monument of Endurance is a great card to give us value off of our discard triggers with Connive, and Bone Miser does the same thing, giving us value off of discarding. And like I said before, what I have in this main video and in the description below is the very toned down version I am extremely confident will be under $100 on the set's release that you can take and tinker around with for a affordable option to play the Sinister Six in Commander. Now, on the set's release, I will be updating the deck to match with the current prices after they drop from pre-sale, and then I will be once again updating the deck let's say a month after the set's release so that I can get the final card prices after they have officially settled, so that no matter when you click on this link in our description, you will have a budget Sinister Six deck you can get for at or under $100. And I am truly sorry I have to shift off of Green Goblin for this Sinister Six video, but just with what I saw from Final Fantasy, I could not confidently make a budget deck where the possible price of Green Goblin could be at $30 or more. But even if Green Goblin's price does sit at $30 or more, I am confident that this Prowler deck is still a load of fun to play. Even in my playtesting, I have had an absolute blast with this very toned down list. And with all that being said, I am very happy to announce that the channel is officially a partner with TCG Player, having our own affiliate link. So right below the deck tech in our description of this video is our personal link to the site. So a great way to support this channel is by clicking on that link whenever you go to buy your awesome cardboard rectangles. Now for some more deck techs from Spider-Man and more, be sure to subscribe, but until next time, have a good one.